And hello again, and here we are back in my garage. Now, in the last episode I completed all the paintwork on the bike. That included adding the pinstripes and finishing off with 2 or 3 coats of 2K lacquer. I then polished that lacquer, and in the end it looked pretty damn good. But now it's time to move on and look at what else I've got to do to finish off this project, which is sitting right here in front of me. But first, let's go back to start this project and remember that I started with just a bare frame. That's all I had. So even now, after more than a year, there are still lots of small parts that I need to complete this project. So I've been hitting up eBay, and the first thing I bought is a side stand, because I didn't have one. But this side stand is not from a Kawasaki Z650, no. It's from a much later Kawasaki ZXR 750. And if you look at it, at first glance, it looks completely different. It's got this weird thing on top here, which a standard side stand wouldn't have on my bike. But not to worry, because Kawasaki are the sort of company who don't change things unless they absolutely have to. And even though this side stand is from a bike that's 20 years younger than mine, if you unbolt this bracketry here, which actually was intended to hold a switch, a sort of cutout switch for the side stand, get rid of all that, and the side stand itself and its bolt and so on fits straight on my bike. I know that because I fitted one once before on another Kawasaki Z650. So good news for Kawasaki, they don't change things unless they have to. And this, because it's not much in demand, was about £12 including postage, so I'm really happy with that. The next thing I bought, which I'm not so happy with, was a front brake. Now, the brakes on this bike, the calipers and so on, are from a sort of 2004, 2005 Yamaha R6, so I thought it makes sense to go and buy a master cylinder from a similar bike, from an R6. So after much looking, because there aren't that many out there, I found this. Now, it came without the lever, which I had to buy separately, and it also came without the dash pot and the bracketry and so on. And even then, even though it's a bit sort of tatty looking, this costs £80 off eBay, which is quite a lot for such a, well, it's not that good, is it? It's actually a Brembo, I think, and it includes the a cutout switch there as well, which is why I liked it. But having got it, it turned out this master cylinder doesn't include the piston, no seals, nothing. Now, I probably would have to buy a reseal kit anyway, but it's a bit disappointing to find it had nothing in it. It was empty, and that's £80, plus about £25 for a lever, which I think might be aftermarket. So the more I thought about it, I thought, well, I've got to buy a rebuild kit, I've got to buy the dash pot, that's about £15, I've got to buy the bracketry to hold it in place, blah, blah, blah. And when it's all fitted on the bike, it won't look quite right, because this is a 70s bike, and 70s bikes didn't have this style of master cylinder. It didn't have a separate dash pot. What they had was an integrated master cylinder with the fluid sort of built in. So I kept on looking on eBay, and I found something else, which is much better. And what I found was this. And this is an excellent condition, absolutely mint condition. It sort of matches the style of the bike that I want to build, and it comes with, complete with, a rather nice lever as well. So it's all good to go. And looking at it, I think the seals will be fine, because it looks like it's only done about 1,000 miles from new. Now, this is actually from a much newer Yamaha MT-10. Not a bike I know a lot about, but apparently it is. And the good news is the brakes off an MT-10 are the same size as I've got on my bike from an earlier R6. So hopefully it should go on and work really well. So that's a real good bargain. And while just the body of this thing cost £80, the complete master cylinder and the lever for this, which is in absolutely immaculate condition, was only £35. And I think that just shows you the sort of supply and demand side of things. For some reason, I guess people like or want to rebuild R6s, or maybe they get crashed more often, maybe they're used on track days, that sort of thing. But there's a big demand for these R6 master cylinders, where obviously there's not much of a demand for MT-10s. So I got a real bargain for this, and I'm very happy to have it. So that can go on the bike at some point. What else has been going on? Well, I've just got a box just arrived, literally about half an hour ago, and judging from the way it's packed, it's actually drenched in tape. I recognise this. This is from Z Power, and amongst other things like badging and so on, I've also got a clutch perch, as it's called, the clutch side of things, and a clutch lever, so I can sort out both sides of the handlebar at some point, which is great news. So let's see where I can start. Well, I can fit this beautiful MT10 front brake. I can fit the clutch, perch and levers from Z Power on there, and yeah, also fit the side stand. I don't need to paint it, it's in really good condition, so that was a good buy for about £10, can't argue with that. And yeah, then I can start thinking about rear sets. So let's get started. And so here's the brake master from the MT10, and I must say it looks pretty damn good. Oh, and by the way, this gold rental won't make the final build, I'm just using it temporarily. And here's that clutch lever in place. And so now with the spring removed, I can now undo this bolt and hopefully separate this bracket here from the side stand, and then we'll see if it fits on the frame. Like so. So that's the bit I don't need, and that's the bit I do need. And so first of all, as you can see, I've got a brand new stainless steel bolt to hold on the side stand. That's a good start. However, when I try and slide on the side stand, it won't quite fit. Almost, but not quite. I've had this problem before because the thickness of the powder coat stops the side stand from sliding on to this boss here on the frame. So rather than rubbing down all the powder coat and risking rust in the future, I'm just going to file down the inside of this side stand until it slides on quite easily. Right, well I think using a hand file is going to take far too long, so we'll move on and use an angle grinder. So wish me luck. Right, I'll go and check it on the frame, and I'll keep going till it fits just right. Right, that's better, it'll fit now. So that'll go in there, and we're good. However, I think now I will clean up this side stand and repaint it. And so, to paint the side stand, I'm going to use this Hammerite Smooth. Just perfect for steel parts like this side stand. So, let's give it a few coats, and it should be good for years. And so, with a few coats of Hammerite, I've now got this side stand fitted to the bike. And even this old spring from the original ZXR 750 fits just fine. And so next, I need to think about the foot controls, because right now I don't have anything at all. But I do have a few different options. So the first option is to go completely standard and go and buy the parts I need from eBay used and get them fitted to the bike, and that's the job done. Slight problem for me though is that, like a lot of bikes from the 70s, the 650 has foot pegs that are quite a long way forward, and I much prefer them to be a bit further back. I find that a bit more comfortable, so I think going stock isn't for me. So the next option is to go for an aftermarket set of rear sets, and I do happen to have not one but two sets here, and these are from Italy, from Tarozzi. And they're really nice. I've used them before on several projects. They bolt straight on and away you go. Really nice bit of kit, but quite expensive. Slight problem is these rear sets are made for a Kawasaki Z1000, not a 650, and the mounting brackets are different, so I can't use this kit. What I might be able to do though is go off to Tarozzi in Italy and order the correct mounting brackets for my bike, and then hopefully everything else will fit no problem, because I think all these other parts are the same between, you know, a Z1000, Z900, whatever, Z650, but I need to do a bit more research about that. Other slight problem is that could take a long time because Italy tends to be quite slow. You've got to deal with import duty and VAT and so on, so that could be quite a long-winded process, but it's something that I need to look into. The next option is to go completely custom, which I like, and make your own. And to that end, the frame was modified before it's powder coated to add some extra tabs in that area so we could mount some one-off rear sets if needed, and I think they are needed. So to help things out, I do a little bag here of bits that are foot pegs and so on, and levers that I never used in the past. So what I've got here is quite a modern looking lever. This was made by the German company LSL. I think it's made for a Triumph originally. Someone gave them to me years ago, but I never used them. But I think this particular lever is a bit too modern for the sort of resto mod look I want for the bike. so that's no good. But I also have a pair of levers that Jeff made for me years ago, and these are really well made from 10mm aluminium, and they pivot on roller bearings, so they're really well made, really nice, and so I have that sort of retro look that I do quite like. And I've also got a matching set of, somewhere, where are they? Yes, here. I've got a matching set of knurled pegs as well. Although if I go for this, I probably will get these pegs hard anodized. In fact, I might get the whole thing hard anodized by Camco, my local company. I did get the pegs I used on the 1170 here hard anodized, and they look really nice and really hard wearing, so that's a really good option. Not cheap, but it is worth doing. So I think what I need to do now is make a template for the mounting brackets that have to bolt to the frame with these new mounting points we welded to the frame some time ago. Now I do have a couple of mounts here that were made for another project, another Kawasaki by the way, but sadly, although they were made for everything else I've got here, the mounts are slightly different. The two mounts welded to my frame here, well, the centres are different from these, so I can't use them. But this is the kind of thing that we need to make on both sides to mount the levers and pegs and so on to my bike. So the next step then is to get some cardboard or something and just roughly draw out the shape I need to match the mounts on the frame. Then I'm going to take it over to Jeff's workshop, where hopefully he's got some 10mm aluminium plate. If he hasn't, I'll have to go and buy some, and we can machine out the mounting points, or rather the mounting brackets, to go on my frame. And that is what's next. And now I've just loosely assembled this gear change lever and its pegs, along with this old mounting bracket. Now sadly, this mounting bracket doesn't quite fit these mounts on the frame. And if I try and mount this gear change lever to the mounts, something like that, as you can see, I've got a big problem because the lever interferes with the side stand, and that's no good. So what I've got to do is make a new mounting bracket which brings the peg and the lever a long way back, something like that, so the kickstart is no longer in the way. And so my first task to make a new bracket is to calculate the angle of this frame tube to the horizontal. And to do that, I've dug up my old protractor and I've used that to work out the angle to be 37 degrees. So with that done, I dug out this old 10mm aluminium plate and I etched a line on it at 37 degrees to the horizontal. I then drilled this first hole which matches the upper mount on the frame. I've then gone down it 101.5mm and marked where the second hole needs to be, and I've tried to work out where I want to have the peg. Now comparing this bike to my 1170, I reckon the peg should be around here, which is 90mm this way and 35mm that way. So I could now drill these holes myself and spend many hours hacksawing out this 10mm plate, but that's an awful lot of hard work when you know a man with a mill. So I'm going to take this round to my mate Jeff's and he can shape this for me and save me an awful lot of time. And now it's a few days later and I have taken that aluminium plate up to Jeff's place where he's going to shape it on his mill. That's not been done yet, but hopefully it should be done in the next few days. But in the meantime, one more bargain has arrived from eBay, and here it is. It's a rear master cylinder taken from a 2024 MT10 to match the front brake. It's in absolutely immaculate condition, as you might expect, having been taken from a fairly new bike. And amazingly, this only cost £25, including postage from eBay, which is an absolute bargain in my book. So when we get round to making the rear sets on the brake side and the mounting plate, of course, the mounting plate will need to be made to take this rear master cylinder, but all that can wait until another day. So that's about it for this week. I really can't do much else. But next week there should be a lot going on. I'll have a bit more time and I'm hoping to get back onto the engine build. So that's for next week, and so for now, thanks for watching and cheers.